One of the happiest moments of my walks is when I get to where I can hear the branch. The water comes down in a hurry, tossing itself this way and that as it tumbles among the broken pieces of old sea bottom. The stream seems to be talking, saying any number of things as it goes along. Sometimes at a certain distance, it can sound like several people talking and laughing. But you listen and you realize it is talking absolutely to itself. If our place has a voice, this is it. And it is not talking to you. You can't understand a thing it is saying. You walk up and stand beside it, loving it, and you know it doesn't care whether you love it or not. The stream and the woods don't care if you love them. The place doesn't care if you love it. But for your own sake, you had better love it. For the sake of all else you love, you had better love it. Artie Link warned me about anecdotal ways of depicting nature such as this. It provokes empathy, bridges similarities, and creates an infatuation with nature, but it does not demand reciprocity. Artie always has a way of taking a person's mind and flipping it inside out like a sock. Being the third generation with that name, he had to find some way to differentiate himself. I met Artie in college. He was, and still is, a hard worker, as close to a fish in water as a human can get, a beatnik at heart, and now one of the most influentially curious individuals I know in matters of nature, the environment, and sustainability. But as the environmental literature we read attempts to move away from an anthropocentric point of view into empathy and inclusion, during our conversations I often wonder if language, specifically the writing we discuss, sustains our supposed separation from nature. Jonathan Bate once said, "The dream of deep ecology will never be realized on Earth, but our survival of a species may be dependent on our capacity to dream it in the work of our imagination." This means moving away from loving the stream for your own sake, or calling it your place, both of which are human-centered uses of language, and instead asking yourself why and how you love the stream. Why call the water or an animal it when you and I are called he and she? Exactly the same is true of so many nature manuals. They teach you how and what to look for, what to question in external nature, but never in your own nature, in your attitudes, beliefs, and habits. For that reason, it is often thought best to rely on memory, because nothing written down can be relied upon. The spirit travels from mouth to mouth, not from thing to thing. Books can be burnt, paper crumble away, computers can be destroyed. Only the spirit lives forever, and the spirit isn't a thing. This spirit is recognizable in people like Artie's dad and grandpa. From living on a farm and even building their own house, Art Jr. and Sr. participated in a beehive-like community where contracts were not written down but spoken and based on characteristics such as honor and loyalty. They did not have books on how to build a roof and committed family recipes to memory. But they too had to chop down trees to build their log cabin and slaughter chickens to feed the children. In the family-oriented era that they grew up in, did they question whether to feed their family or save nature? Earlier generations held an ethic towards eating animals, and it was not don't eat, but neither was it don't care. Rather, eat with care. They cared for their animals and they cared for their land. They grew and ate in necessity for one family. As it turns out, sometimes humans are not really winning if they are sacrificing the nature that is their life support system. This ideology was plowed over by factory farming, which I myself would not have known about if it weren't for works such as John Foyer's Eating Animals and environmental literature classes and seminars. This is where I believe environmental literature actually succeeds and merges the supposed gap between humans and nature. Environmental literature puts humans as a society and as individuals on trial for proving themselves incapable of living as citizens and members of the community of life, and in recent centuries, having become so numerous and so hazardous to other members of the community and the biosphere that they should be banished from the earth forever. Dr. Orr poses this scenario to his introductory environmental studies class and asks, "What would our defense as humans be?" For the most part, students do not yet know, and the rest of the semester builds on figuring out answers to questions such as these. Environmental literature asks for our defense and poses many other questions and realizations. It shoves us into a roughly 18 by 20-inch cage like a chicken, puts us on trial, and asks, why are we there and how will we get out? I think there are indeed anthropocentric aspects of environmental literature, as deep ecology would say one must first understand themselves before understanding inherent value, quality of life, and obligation of action. Understanding people is the first step towards actually moving away from a human-centered approach. A priority in higher education, then, is to introduce awareness of the fact that single perspectives yield only limited views of complex problems. This means creating transdisciplinary programs with students from environmental studies, literature, health science, communication, business, psychology, and various other fields. Speaking from my own field of study, if you cannot communicate these ideas and issues to others in a compelling, relatable manner, no one will jump on board. I can only speak for myself when saying that eco-literacy has impacted the way I view the world around me and brought me closer to, rather than permanently separating me from, nature.